Oh yeah. Okay, thanks. These blokes are happy guys in the Mallee, Southern Mallee. A couple of you guys out there might know who they are. Ribbon blokes, and it's all about relationships, isn't it? You know, setting rotations and setting a pathway, a diverse pathway to control weed seed set. This is me, yep. So I started 30 years ago and I've moved through different roles over that period of time. So I'm going to concentrate, like Tim and a few of the others, on rye and brome, because I think it's those particular grass weeds we spend a lot of time on trying to get them right. So some facts about that. The why and how of phases and seed set control, and I call them cheese toasty combos in phases and seed set control. Greg calls them combos. I think cheese toasties are a little bit more, they're cheap for a start, they're simple, and hopefully you'll get that message. Rye and brome. And look, I'd like to acknowledge Peter Botsalis, Chris Preston, Sam Kleeman, University of Adelaide and Ari, with quite a bit of this background information. So what do we know about brome? It has staggered germination, so it's difficult with knockdowns because it has what they call a dark requirement. So as soon as you run that seeder through the paddock, the brome grass will appear. Also, we've selected over the years, we've got a number of populations out there that require a chilling or cold requirement to break dormancy, around about that 4 to 5 degrees. So if you're waiting for the brome to come up to whack that knockdown out, you're going to be disappointed, I'd say, because it's going to come up probably May, June, July, August, September, October. Persistence 3 years, okay, so that's pretty rough rule of thumb. It's about 30%, 20 to 30% seed bank carryover. But if you've got a couple of dry years in there, it could take 4, 5, 6 years, really, with diverse phases to get on top of it. So it's a difficult one, but it's nothing magic about it. That's what we know. Actually, I took that photo at the BCG Industry Day the other day. It was very good. That's Gurjit Gill's trial work there, and Spartacus barley, nice big population of brome grass. It's fallow there in a dry year, so all the weed seeds have come up. So obviously it hasn't had the Innovix, and they're the chickpeas on that site. So it doesn't matter what crop, it's very competitive. Look at these numbers, scare you. Right up the top there, great brome. We start brome, ryegrass, barleygrass, and you move from year 1, year 2, year 3 in the right-hand side. So you can see how competitive brome is, even though you probably find ryegrass sets a lot more seed, but because brome's so competitive, you see year 2, then year 3, it's just producing enormous amounts of tillers and enormous amounts of seed. It's outcompeted the crop, so you can see no weeds, 2.47 tonne, brome grass, 0.18. So that's a good old Mallee continual cereal rotation. So most of the Mallee now, you probably find 40, 50% of it will be break crop because of that and other reasons. My first experience with brome grass resistance, it is it's self-pollinated, so it's not a cross-pollinator. You don't see the level of resistant populations as you would in ryegrass, but they do occur, and this is the first one I come across in 1998, sent those samples to Chris Preston. He goes, "Whoa, that's the first one, Rick." I said, "Thanks." This guy here, not that guy, he's Swan Hill, he's a very, very good farmer. You see him on Twitter. Follow him, Lee Bryan, and he's one of the most diverse brome grass, ryegrass farms that you'll see, and he's got a number of tools there to manage this issue. So you can see do the FOPs make any difference? Well, they are important, and you'll see a difference there. So you see verdict up the top there. This thing doesn't work. There's about 6 populations, so 2 of those, certainly a rate response and also a growth stage response. You can see here, select, same, and good old Targa, Quasilla FOP. If you're using a lot of that over a long period of time, you probably are selecting for more FOP-resistant brome. That's what I found. So that previous slide, for years prior to that, so in the early 90s, Quasilla FOP, or so Targa, was used quite regularly. Glyphosate, gene amplification, I think that is it, Pete. So there's glyphosate, that's Peter Botsalis again, on brome grass, 1.5 litres. Okay. What about ryegrass? Has a huge, in numbers like that, we've got huge selection pressure, so we have enormous amounts of ryegrass resistant populations. It's very competitive, as you've seen. Carries around about that 10 to 20% seed bank carryover, so phases are needed. This has already gone up. Tim had this before, but anyway, that's the crux of it. Arrow glyphosate. So just a matter of time. Chris Preston, rules of thumb. So I think this one here, most of you've been using glyphosate for how long? 10, 15 years? More? So you're going to see it. Certainly going to see it with trifluralin, which it'll show you on those graphs. And then K. So it's going to happen. It's just how diverse your thinking is around managing this, which is Tim's mix and rotate as well. Group J resistance. Peter Botsalis. Okay, that's a sample of mine. Matt, you know where it is. Always like to highlight this one because it's a classic. 3 litres of glyphosate, we got 20% survival. So it does happen. This is an irrigated farm, so a lot of glyphosate, a lot of escapes over a period of time. I took this photo the other day. So most of these photos I've got this in this presentation were taken in the last 3, 4, 5 weeks. So that's a fallow and the glyphosate, the ryegrass getting through. So it's been going through a fallow phase, no double knocks. This one did get one. Why and how are phases and seed set control? So know your numbers. You don't have to know exactly the numbers, but you might want to know your priorities. Okay, so if you know your priority paddocks, then you'll be able to set up a decent strategy going forward. So that one I would say is quite high, even though we've done a pretty good job with our propizamide. Still high numbers because it's all in the row. So that's telling you the story. Record and measure, I use the AgWorld program, you can use whatever, and I just use the notes section so you can see every year under each, following each line under one another. You can then set your strategies going in there, put all your information in there so you can refer back to each paddock each year. Resistance tests, so we've got plenty of people by the sound of the do resistant testing, quick tests, seed tests, Peter Botsalis. Okay, so this is Tony Swan, CSIRO work. So I got this off, so he presented at WeedSmart Wagga a few years ago. Really good information here. It's on the, I think it's on the WeedSmart website, this one. I needed to put some background information around why we do need phases. 2 systems here, tine and disc, and 3 approaches. So diverse, aggressive and conservative. So I'll just show you. So the diverse approach is barley, vetch, canola, wheat, using all the modes of action that work: Secura, Box of Gold, trifluralin, the tine, mix and rotate, etc., etc. The aggressive approach is, which you'll probably see around here and in other places, so canola and wheat stubbles, same sort of preems, Secura, Box of Gold, etc., etc. And then you've got the conservative approach is just trifluralin in the tine, and then it might have been a diuron or something like that in the disc. So very conservative. You see the numbers, certainly very profitable to run diverse phases and to mix and rotate. So you can see the numbers up here. So the conservative phase with a disc where you've got no pre-em is a challenge, but that's on its own and without a phase, so it can be done. You just got to think outside that square a bit. Aggressive, so certainly improve with pre-ems, and diverse is really important going forward. So that's a blowout patch this year, I've found, so you'll probably see quite a few blowouts this year. Nice, good year for growing grass. Barley, disc seeding system, preem's not working, single phase, we've got a blowout. Brome grass. This is a slide from quite a few years ago. It has a seed persistence of around 20-30% carryover. So the top line there would be the old mallee rotation, wheat, barley, and it just got out of control. Clearfield wheat come along or Clearfield barley come along, and then you've got a bit of a drop off and then back up again. And then you've got a vetch Clearfield cereal phase in there, which is probably not diverse enough, but it's a good start. So you can see how important that is. And there's back to that slide again. So fallow, Spartacus barley back on fallow. If we treat it with Innovix, it actually would be at the start of a phase. So what do we got for brome control? We've got knockdowns, unlikely. Pre-emergency, trifluolin, metribuzin, Secura Avidex, quite a few of the preems keep low numbers low. They do work. They work quite well. This is the main system. And this one here, so your selectives in crop, in your break phases. Okay, so we've also got a whole bucket load of interesting and effective tools coming through in terms of varieties, and it doesn't have to be just technology around herbicides. We've got more competitive varieties Chris has been talking about. You know, you've got a whole range of options going forward. So these are the hallmarks. Look like quite a good lentil crop. And you might be using these pulses as what we call soakers or canolas. So you're not necessarily applying an IMI, but you're using them in the phase air to soak up that IMI and put something else on it. Might be a triazine. Hopefully we've got a group C tolerant. So well, this is a more tolerant group C IMI. So use the triazine and not the IMI back on the IMI residue. So these are Bendox. This is the Pack Seeds Hyola CT 580. This particular paddock's gone through, this is the third year in the phase, so it's Clearfield triazine back on Spartacus barley treated with Innovix, back on lentils, so it's 3 years, and then it'll go out again, and then it'll probably go through a hay phase at some point in time, because we haven't got a shielded spray just yet. Some of this other new pre-em technologies, Ultro, very good on brome grass as a pre-em. Maybe that's something we can use to take some pressure off our fops. Shielded sprays, anyone see this around? The Crop Stalker. Had a bit of a drive on that with Grant. It's a ripper. Well put together, sturdy, does everything you want it to do. Maybe use that in your phase. So someone like Lee, you talk to Lee, he'll use it in there as mopping up low numbers and reducing his IMI reliance. So he doesn't want a lot of IMI through his system. He wants to be able to keep his rotation nice and flexible, and that might be a cereal on cereal. That's a good option there. So with ryegrass, we've got a whole heap of chemistry and a lot more coming through, so mix and rotate, really important part of your diverse phases. See there from Chris, they're all your mixes. Just be careful with what system you're running, so what pre-ems you are using. You've got to know what's working and what's not, whether your system can cope with some of the contacts. This guy here is a very good farmer near Swan Hill. We're just looking, we put out some lime squares to see whether we've got enough throw. We're not getting too much throw. We're getting a lot of hair pinning in this particular situation, and that lime's getting dragged into the row, so that would be the pre-em. So know your risks, disversitine, soil type, product, row spacing, etc. This one we've already just covered with Tim. You know, we want to keep petroxidin, clethodim in the toolbox, so be smart about it. I just highlighted the 3 key areas that I see. So we want to take pressure off it with knockdowns in our pulses, for instance, effective pre-ems, seed set control, and as Chris touched on, seed capture. Ooh, blurry photo, it's an old photo. On the left-hand side is not treated because it's going around a tree, but that is propizamide, so in canola. So effective pre-em. 2 grass sprays, so this is, I took this the other day, this had its second, so that'd be factor, I think I put on that one, factor, so petroxidin, clethodim on that sort of grass, not the big tiller stuff we talked about. We want to be targeting that sort of, so it's 2 grass sprays. Back here, so this is a farm here, 1 spray, we're applying all the chaff and seeds on the track, so it's a chaff EMA chaff deck system, disc seeder, all the preamps up front. We actually have captured quite well. One grass spray, that is, so there's still a lot more coming. So we'll be pretty fussy. And that's 2 grass sprays. It's a pretty simple message, isn't it? Mix and rotate. You tend to find, Pete, you're talking to Pete Botsalis, you tend to find there'll be quite a bit of that synergism between the two. Factor and, well, that's Havoc, which is Clethen. With brome, same. So this is a chaff deck system. He's changed from a chaff line system to a chaff deck system because the chaff, as that chaff builds in a chaff line system, if you're actually putting enough in there, it can be a bit of an issue with crops like lentils. And we also want to cover those tracks. They tend to get a bit worn out. This is a strip disc system, so it's working quite well. So 1 grass spray and 2 grass sprays. And some paddocks this year I've put 3 on. Just got to be aware of your MRLs, your labels requirements, particularly with products like Haloxifop in canola, 1 only. But you might, if you know your Quizillafop's working, so your Targa, come back and give it another hit or another hit. Okay? Because at the end of the day, we want this to work. Paraquat. Why? Because we've got glyphosate resistance and because it's another mode of action. We can get up to that, apparently. I've never seen it, but it could be possible. I think you're probably talking, what do you reckon, Chris? Brome, 70 to 80? If you're lucky. Okay, but if we're fussy with our grass selectives and we're getting more of that later germinations, you probably find you might be heading up towards the 80. Ryegrass, you should be around about that 80 to 90. You know, if you're not fussy and you're trying to crop top this sort of stuff, well, you're going to leave a lot of grass get through. And so the phases just don't work that well for you. Same with ryegrass. Too big, too much selection pressure. What about canola, crop topping canola? Rate's really important, Chris Preston. So, you know, the higher rate's more effective than the lower rate, particularly with you guys in the Wimmera. You've got these big, bulky hybrid canola varieties. You're going to have to pile a fair bit of glyphosate on there to get it down into the canopy. It will work. Plenty of water. Timing's critical. What about glyphosate resistant ryegrass and crop topping? Did we think that glyphosate was going to get them when we were crop topping? Anyone see any different? Who thought it was going to be different to that? Put up your hand. Yep. So it isn't. University of Adelaide, research work, even at 2 different timings, flowering, milky dough. Okay, so we need to be diverse. That's the aggressive phase, canola and wheat stubble. So when you're targeting this sort of stuff with your crop topping, so you're not diverse enough in your phases, you're putting a lot of pressure on glyphosate and other modes of action, clethodim. So this is RE website. I just had to find some information to show that that was going to be the case. You're only getting about 50% control, seed set control, with a higher application rate there of Roundup attack. See the point up there. The researchers noticed that quite a lot of that ryegrass was more advanced. Okay, this is the stuff we want to try and control. That's back on a phase. So that was back to a farm that's back to that farm I showed you there before, the disc seeder with the chaff deck system and 2 grass sprays, crop topping, blah, blah, blah. This is it here. So we're going to get this. Bit of blackleg out there too, but we sprayed that. And these are the sort of results we can expect. So there's your SP application. And there's your number 9, your cutter bar application, which will be later, less effective. Anyone think that that was going to be the case? Yes or no? Well, that's a fact. Brome grass. So when we talk about crop topping brome, this one's had 2 fops, and we're more likely going to capture that with a crop top than the big stuff that'll get through. So be fussy, be diverse, that's from Chris. I borrowed that off him. Thank you, Chris. Because it's from Twitter. Who's on Twitter? Put up your hand. If you're not on it, get on it, because it's really important that you guys interact with this sort of stuff. You know, Chris puts a lot of stuff there. Humes puts a lot of stuff up there. Greg does. I do occasionally. So this is crop top scepter wheat. Who would have thought that you could crop top brome grass in wheat? Well, you can. See, if you look back here, if you're crop topping barley and you've got an Innovix in there and an effective pream, you've got phase in that and you're getting quite a bit of this stuff getting through, then you will do it. Mind you, I've never done it, not wheat, but I've done it with barley and I've done it with canola and pulses, etc. So that side there was crop topped and that side there wasn't crop topped. It was wheat and the whole paddock was windrow burnt. So one tool, no combos. Just a few tips. Those that are, who cuts hay, hay growers, put up your hand. More obvious. No, don't, because flood the market. Market's good enough as it is. But these guys cut hay last year, frosted, but they're hay growers anyway, frosted wheat. Important point, stressed crops, stressed weeds, applying your glyphosate and then cutting time was really important last year. So one day, I just put that arrow there, that's barley grass. So we're seeing quite a bit of barley grass. You see a lot in your area too, wouldn't you, Chris? So no different to brome. Needs a chill requirement. It's germinating later. We're not catching it in our particular preems in particular, but there are solutions. So this is the same farm, oat and hay, double sown. So the competition component of the strategy. And it was 2 to 3 days later when we cut it. And knockdowns, double knocks will be similar. So if you've got stress weeds, just be careful about coming back with your second knock too quick. So Northern Mallee this year, we're starting to get into a bit of a stressed situation again. This is from Barry Haskins. So Baz said I could borrow that one because it's a good one. And it typifies, you know, the fallowing type scenario to a certain degree up there. So glyphosate, rye getting through his fallows, and he's come back and it's not an effective double knock, but it is still a double knock. So he's actually had to come back with a high rate of amitrole paraquat mix because the paraquat on its own is not going to kill that big ryegrass. You know, fairly dear sort of mix, but if you've got a weed or something like that, I've got quite a few guys with weeds, that'll work quite well. So double knocks is another way of stopping seed set. So my cheese, how long do you go? 10 minutes. Cheese toasties. So cost effective, simple, and they're nice. So up the top there, you can see the grass that was sprayed previous year. So hang on, let me go back. Disc seeder, diverse system, and aggressive. Chaff deck system. Okay, previous year, barley, Spartacus. Same paddock, patch out. Oh, why? Oh, apparently there was a fence line, paddock, fence line between that side and that side. There wasn't as much grass on that side and there was a bit more on that side. I love them. Take photos. So we've caught that seed from the previous years that wasn't crop top. We've hit it with a carpet of grass selectives, but still sitting on those tracks. That was the barley that was crop topped. You can see the ryegrass pressure. It's off the scale. Barley crop topped. All the seeds, 4-tonne crop, put on the tracks. Can you see the grass? It was actually quite difficult to find the grass in that system. That's the paddock this year, so you can see the lentils. We actually hadn't applied the post-emergent yet. That's how early this is. There's the canola, so diverse phases. No grass on the tracks. Okay, so that'll get one grass spray, canola. It'll get crop topped. This is the other side, so you can see all the grass, not crop topped this year. So that's from 2 years ago. There's the chaff tracks, or what do you want to call them? One grass spray is going to put a lot of pressure on our clethodim and the wheel goes round. Okay? Another cheese toasty combo, brome grass, ryegrass, Central Mallee, 2015 wheat, windrow burnt. Still got quite a few. So from a percentage point of view, I have 20% of my guys using the EMA chaff decks, 30% chaff line that will more likely go to a chaff deck system on tracks. The rest, quite a bit of hay, so 50% growing hay, still some windrow burning, and Brendan, a few of them talking about the Terminator, so the destroy system. So windrow burnt, wheat, 2015. Just a few treatments I put out in that paddock. Trifluenal resistance, effective pre-em, really important. Propizamide. Lentils that year went 3 tonne. One out of the box. Won't see that very often. Wish we did, but following year it was a TT. So even though it's a brome phase and a rye phase, we just didn't want to overuse the Yimmies because we've got enough of that going on the farm. So that's a hybrid TT. You know those guys. Crop top, 2 grass sprays for the brome, 1 grass spray for the rye. Compass barley, wide rows, mix and rotate. And then we've come back to this year. That is Mulgara oats, I believe. So it'll go through a couple of 2 or 3 oat phases, depending on what the rest of the farm is up to. And you can see the ryegrass down here. She's not liking that competition, which is part of the big 6. So we've got a nice big cheese toasty there. Combo's probably got a few pickles in there and a bit of ham. And then that's one of the other paddocks that got cut, so we're going to put it in a bale, send it away to Ultima Hay or wherever, Hay Australia. Pretty happy with that. So on that farm we've got failed lentils on lentils as a break crop system, and then might go into canola or oat and hay. We've got vetch on lentils, so 2 pulse breaks. Does work, just know your numbers, your broadleafs, etc. What sort of disease pressure that you may be, so part of that other agronomy group that we've got to be aware of. Maybe it's a canola, maybe it's a cereal, competitive cereal. At the end of the day, we're happy chappies because we've got control. We've got certainty about the future with the big 6, and there's a fair bit of diversity going on in the Mallee and the Central Mallee. So, am I early?
You are perfectly on time.
Perfectly on time, thank you.